the sun is just starting to climb up over the treetops. And it's gonna be a beautiful day, that's plain to see.
Welcome to Bill Dance Outdoors, America's most popular and longest running TV fishing show.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.
Woo! Well, he was right up on the bank. Pretty one. Fat pre-spawn bass. Here you are. See ya. Woo! Let me tell you something, folks. One of everybody's favorite bass fishing lures has got to be this little fella right here, the spinnerbait. And I guess the reason for that is because of its versatility. It was one of the first, maybe not the first, but it was very close to it, of the baits that I first started fishing many, many years ago. Spinnerbaits today, well, they've become as popular as cell phones and social media, and a must for everybody's tackle box. I think what makes them so effective is that they can be fished summer, fall, winter, spring, cold water, hot water, muddy or clear, day or night. They're extremely attractive, and because of their shape, in the mind of a fish, like the bass, they're easy to eat. They display a movement that's very appealing and look so natural. And finally, the blade. The blade combination creates a unique vibration, and that's very attractive to bass. Now, during those times when you're fishing extremely clear, calm water on bright days, it's best to make long casts to prevent spooking finicky bass, because this is the time of the year they're extremely easy to spook. However, under low light conditions, or when there's a little chop on the surface, or the water's a little dingy, it's not necessary to make long casts. You can be much more accurate with shorter casts, and that's important because often this type of lure is only productive over a small area. So naturally, you'll be able to hit your target or area much better at close range. Good one. Where are you going to go? Hey, there's sport model. Pretty fish. There we go.
Bill Dance Outdoors, sponsored by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Rebel, catch fish anywhere. And by Mercury Marine, go boldly. Today's Conditions Log is sponsored by Outdoor Water Solutions, offering pond and lake aeration systems with energy-saving solutions including solar and wind, customized to fit your need. Visit OutdoorWaterSolutions.com for quality aeration products.
there. Ooh. Oh, get out there. Come on around here. Oh, that's a nice one. I saw him just come out of that bush and hit it. If I ever hooked a 10-pounder, that's the way I'd want to hook him. That's a pretty one, isn't it? Fish hadn't spawned yet either. Looking for a place to spawn. Yes, you did, pretty thing. So you know, the success of a bait like this, just like any other, is in the presentation. Now, at this time of the year, during pre-spawn, your presentation is critical. Most times, a slow roll retrieve with repeated casts to likely looking spots is critical, like I say. Now let me show you. Here, most of the times, our casts are made parallel with the bank. Here, I can make repeated casts and cover different depth zones before moving on down the bank. Now, we're coming up on a point right here. We've got kind of a high bluff that kind of flattens out, which is an ideal location. We've got a contour change right here, and fish like that, especially at this time of the year. We're coming into a cove, a little short cove, and fish zero in on these little flat, brushy type points to spawn. Now what I'm doing, I make a cast, and that's fairly shallow. It's probably 1.5 to 2 feet deep. When that bait hits, what I'm gonna do is just slow roll it. Front of this boat is in about 2.5, 3 feet of water. It's a good looking spot. So I may make a couple of casts right there, just slow rolling that bait. Now straight out off to the left of that stump where that bush is probably about 2.5 feet deep. So by paralleling it, I can make another cast and cover about a 2.5 foot depth zone. And I'll make a couple of casts right there. I'm covering a 1.5 foot, 2.5 by paralleling. I'm covering all that water right there. Now if I'm sitting out behind me, we're going to cover this a little bit later in a little bit more in depth. But right now I'm just trying to show you what I'm doing. If the shoreline will allow me to do that, I'm going to do a series of fan casts out by paralleling. Now if I'm sitting out here in deep water throwing in, I'm only going to cover just a small section. Then I move down, I'm only cover a small section. I'm going to miss a lot of that fishable bank by throwing in and reeling out. By sitting in, I can cover so much more. What are you going to do? Nice fish. Slide up here and say hi to me. Look at that. Full of roe. There she is. There we go, buddy. That's fat, baby.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Quantum Rods and Reels, Quantum Performance Tuned, Mystic Lubricants, Lubrication Domination, and Tracker Boats, Fish the Finest. Today's equipment log is brought to you by Gamakatsu, because the fish of a lifetime only comes once in a lifetime. Today's show is sponsored in part by Berkeley. Catch more fish. Bill Dance exclusive rods by Quantum. And by Garmin. Bite your fish, not your fish finder.
There he is. He gets brother. Oh. Ooh-wee. Come around this way. Pretty fish there. Yes, sir. Go. That's a pretty one. Big old spawning bass getting ready to. Okay. I like that. Ready to go back? See ya. Now it's difficult for you to see what we have here. And the cover you see above the surface is nothing compared to what's underneath. It's just it's a jungle, a submerged forest of submerged stumps and treetops and logs. So when you're fishing this type of cover, you know, like we have here, there are three basic retrieves that'll help you. One is to position your boat deep and cast into the shallow water and then retrieve downhill. Now, remember that when you do this, a very slow retrieve will allow the lure to swim in a downward arch. Another retrieve is a parallel retrieve, what we've been talking about, and what we've been doing mostly today. Now, this is where your boat is positioned in close to the bank and your caster made parallel to it. Here, it's always smart, like I said earlier, to make several in close to the bank. Make several casts in close to the bank with a series of fan casts casting out at a short distance. Now, with a couple of more casts before you move on. Just kind of a few fan casts. Throw one in, then next cast, throw one out, next cast, throw one out a little bit further. If you catch a fish, just sit there a few minutes and fan the whole area out. This way you're covering all depths. It's by far my favorite way to fish a bank, especially when fish are shallow. Finally, the third option is to position your boat shallow and cast out deep. What this does, it allows the spinnerbait to gradually climb uphill. This uphill retrieve allows you to stay in contact with your lure at all times. It also keeps your lure closer to the cover than the downhill retrieve, and it's especially productive when bass are holding tight. Now, this particular presentation can cost you fish, and it can cost you lures if the cover's thick. In this position, you're pulling your catch into the shallow cover instead of up and out from it. I don't like that retrieve unless the bottom is fairly clean and I'm pulling the bait into a kind of open areas.
The Bill Dance question and answer of the week is brought to you by Bill Dance exclusive rods by Quantum. Whether you're fishing for panfish, bass, catfish, or light saltwater, we have an action for you. Available at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.
Have you ever tried Berkeley's power bait for catfish? Yep, it's a highly effective attractor. You know, I've heard catfishermen talk about it for years, but I've never really tried it until now. I'm amazed. It's really powerful stuff that really works. It makes any bait taste and smell alive, and it's very easy to apply. Just flip the cap and squirt it on. Power bait, it really works.
Today's show is sponsored in part by Berkeley. Catch more fish. Bill Dance exclusive rods by Quantum. And by Garmin. Bite your fish, not your fish finder.
Today's product tip is brought to you by Garmin and their GPS map series, chart plotter sonar combos. With advanced sonar technology like Chirp and exclusive Panoptix all-seeing sonar, you'll spend less time finding your fish.
There are many places you don't want to be hauling your boat when your bearings go out. For example, you don't want to be in rush hour traffic or on some back road in the middle of nowhere. And that's why I use Mystic JT6 bearing grease. The definition of reliable, Mystic allows me to always get there and back. And if you pack your bearings with Mystic, the same reliability will be yours as well.
Come be part of Bill Dance Digital. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Follow us.
During the pre-spawn, bass can be so doggone temperamental. And that's why, throwing back at the same spot several times is very, very important. Not only are they temperamental, they're moody. And this is why, like I said, repeated cast to the same area is so doggone important. Sometimes you got to make 3 and 4 casts to the same area to get them to bite. You just got to believe one is there and you're doing the right thing. You want to keep your rod tip up, be patient, grit your teeth, and you'll be the one that comes out on top most of the time. You've got 3 real popular blades. You've got the willow blade like I'm using now. The willow blade spins much faster than the other 2 blades. The other 2 blades, it's the popular Colorado and the popular Indiana. And each blade serves a purpose. Okay, let me show you what these blades look like. Like this is a blade we're using today, but in silver. This is the willow blade. It puts out so much vibration. This is a blade that spins extremely fast and puts out so much reflection. This is a Colorado blade, which is round and has so much water resistance. It has a tremendous amount of vibration. That is my choice right there, especially at night, low light conditions, and off-colored water. And this is the Indiana. This is a compromise blade. It puts out vibration and it has pretty good water resistance. Of all these 3 blades, these 2 blades right here are 2 of my favorites. It's what I use most of the time. Now, about a month ago, we were fishing a lake that had an algae bloom. I'm gonna say the visibility was just about that deep. And the fish were in about 1.5 feet to 2 feet of water. Now the reason fish select shallow water when the water's muddy or when it's got extremely off-colored conditions is one simple reason. They can see better. In this particular situation, about a month ago, they were relating to a vegetation. It's a stem-type vegetation called club brush. And this particular club brush is a vertical type of vegetation. They were right on the outside edge of it in about 1.5 feet of water. And there were some really big fish. And the best bait that I could find was this bait right here, a Bass Pro Shop laser eye spinnerbait. But what I did, I modified it just a little bit. They use a color blade on it, but I changed it to a silver blade. Even in this off-colored water, I caught some tremendously big bass. In fact, I had one that would push 10 pounds. But the key to this bait was the vibration that Colorado blade put out. So anytime you're fishing low light conditions, always think about the Colorado blade because it's going to vibrate more. You can work it just at a snail's pace because it's got so much water resistance and you'll feel that vibration, that thump. So now you know what I know about the 3 blades and what they look like, okay? Boy, that ought to hammer one right there. There he is. Where you going, bigger? Well, come around. All right, come here, fish. There we go. Fishing spinnerbaits demands less physical effort than many other lures and forms of bass fishing. It does require some careful thought, however. One like critical boat positioning, lots of confidence in what you're doing, a bunch of patience, and techniques for methodical retrieves. Now, if you lack any of these, you're going to have little success. However, if you make it a point to slow your pace and flash the shallows, well, you better stay ready, because the big thump is often only a cast away. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next week. Until then, catch one from me.
Thanks for watching Bill Dance Outdoors. Join us here again next week.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.